Good morning. My name is Lian, a member of Group 3 from 16E7, and this is our group's presentation for the assignment, Analyzing a Linguistic Phenomenon to Prove its Application in Real-Life Situations. And the topic of our presentation today will be General Analysis, an area of discourse analysis. Okay, so let's get started, and I hope you will enjoy our presentation. So I would like to start off our presentation by briefly introducing the structure of our presentation. It is composed of 4 main sections. First of all, we would like to summarize the theories, like the basic theories of general analysis. After that, we will get down into analyzing the 2 situations. The first one is called adapting to the new living environment, and the second one is learning to write an argumentative essay. And lastly, we would like to wrap up everything in the conclusion part. So I will move right straight to the first part, theories summary. So what is general analysis? General analysis is an area of discourse analysis that studies spoken and written discourse, mainly in non-literary communication, approaching it in terms of genres, or we also call it types or kinds of discourse, characterized by regularities in form, content, purpose, and social actions. So actually, there are a great variety of genre, like discourse genres, ranging from academic genres like lectures, research, or presentations, to the less formal ones like movies, comic stories, and daily conversations. And nowadays, with the development of internet and technology, people have created a lot more genres like text messages, posts on Facebook, for example, or blogs or forums. So many types of genres, really. So why do we do genre analysis? So genre analysis is a method that can help us understand the expectations and responses of participants in a discourse community. It also provides us with the means to develop general awareness in order to make effective communication choices. So if we look around us, we actually do a lot of general analysis, like every day, like on a daily basis. And our group is able to collect at least 5 situations in which general analysis is applied. And we have selected out 2 out of 5 situations to analyze in our presentation today. So there is a note, a very important note. The analysis of the situations in this presentation is based on the steps adapted from the textbook called Scenes of Writing, Strategies for Composing Genre Analysis. So according to the authors of this book, when we analyze a genre, we need to follow 4 primary basic steps. Step 1, collect samples of the genre. Step 2, describe the rhetorical situation of the genre, which is composed of setting, subjects, participants, and purpose. Step 3, identify the patterns of the genre, which includes content, format, structure, and language. And finally, step 4, analyze the meaning of the pattern. I will move right straight to situation number 1, which we call adapting to the new living environment. Okay, so this situation happens a lot in our daily life. It has happened to a lot of us, especially when we just move to a new living environment. So this situation is going to be like this. It is about a Vietnamese student named Linh Thi. She is very smart. That's why she received a scholarship from Harvard University. It is such a great honor for her. And she left Vietnam for the US to live and study. So, in the first few weeks, she confronted a lot of difficulties caused by differences in cultures and lifestyles between Americans and Vietnamese. So, and then she decided to go online, search for videos of people going shopping and lectures at universities, because those are the two situations that she experienced like the most frequently in her life. So, so what is the purpose of her analyzing these videos? She analyzed these videos to understand, to compare and understand the differences between the way Americans and Vietnamese interact in daily life, so that she can adapt better to the new living environment. Right? And that is the situational purpose of this situation. So, next examples. We have two contexts here. The first one is shopping. The second one is lectures at university. So there will be 4 videos in total. We will attach the link of the videos on this video. So please pause this presentation, check out these videos first, and then come back to us later. So welcome back. Okay, let's continue. So I would like to analyze and explain these videos. Okay, so I'm going to follow the 4 steps that I mentioned earlier in this presentation. Step 1, collecting samples. So we have 4 videos right here. We have just watched it. Okay, so step 2, analyzing the rhetorical situation of the genre. The first element of rhetorical situation here is the setting. Let's look at the conversations at the shop first. So in the first video, the setting here, because it is a conversation between the customer and the shop assistant, the setting here is the supermarket in the USA. And in the second video, the genre is also a conversation, but it is between 2 customers and the seller in the market in Vietnam. Okay, so let's move to the context of lectures at university. The setting is a little bit different, but it is obvious. The first video, the genre, is a lecture taking place in a lecture hall at Harvard University in the USA. And in the second video, the genre is also a lecture, but it takes place in the classroom at Đông Đô University in Vietnam. So the setting here is different. Okay. Next, the subject or the topic of the genre. So conversations at the shop. So in the first video, in the grocery stores in the USA, the topic of the conversation is about a man like buying a pack of cookies. Okay, while in the market in Vietnam, the subject or the topic here is about a couple buying vegetables. Yeah, that's simple. And lectures at university. So it is very obvious that the subject of the lecture at Harvard University is about justice. The lecturer gives, the professor gives lectures about justice. And in Vietnam, at Đông Đô University, the professor gives a lecture about Ho Chi Minh ideology. Next, I would like to talk about the participants of these genres. Let's go back to the shops. So in the US, you can see right here in the picture, there are 2 participants, a cashier, a young lady, and the customer is a guy, probably middle-aged. And in the market in Vietnam, there are 3 participants in this conversation. The customers are a couple, a man and a woman, and the seller is a middle-aged woman. And while in the lectures at university, let's look at the first picture. the lectures at Harvard University. There are two main types of participants. The first one, the speaker, is the lecturer named Michael Sandel. He teaches just that lesson, and the second participant is his students. Okay, similarly, in the lectures in Đông Đô University in Vietnam, the lecturer is Hoàng Chí Bảo. He teaches political theory, and the second participant is his students in the classroom. Okay, and the last element of step 2, rhetorical situation of the general, I would like to talk about the purpose of these generals. Okay, so in the shopping context, the purpose of these conversations is to buy and sell things. And in the lectures context, the purpose of the lectures is to give and receive knowledge. And that is also the last element of step 2. Next, let's move to step 3. Identify the pattern of the general.
I'll be in charge of step 3, which is identifying the pattern of the general. In this part, I will analyze 4 patterns: the content, the format, structures, and language in the general. Now we go to the situation 1, conversations when shopping. I provide you 2 examples of 2 conversations in the US and in Vietnam. And about the content of 2 conversations, the first one at the supermarket in the US is about a man buys a pack of cookies, while the other one at the market in Vietnam, a couple buys vegetables. About the format, 2 examples are under a format of conversation. And one more important pattern we need to analyze is the structure of the general. In the first conversation at a supermarket in the US, there are 8 stages. First of all, the customer and the cashier greet each other like, "Hi, how are you?" And then they engage in a short chat, like the customer said that he really likes European cookies and stuff from other countries. And next, the cashier introduces the other potential products like candies from all over the world. And then she announces the final bill to the customer. The next step is the customer asks for payment method because he wants to pay by card. And then after that, the cashier asks the customer whether he wants to print up the bill. And the most important stage is to pay the money. And in the end of the conversation, they say goodbye to each other. And how about the conversation at the market in Vietnam? There are 7 stages. First of all, the buyers and the seller also greet each other, and then the buyers ask for product information and their prices. After that, the buyers come to a negotiation with the seller, and luckily they pick up a bargain and then pay the money to the seller. In the end of the conversation, the buyers say thank you to the seller. The last important patterns we need to analyze is the language used in the conversation. In the US, the conversation have some kind of outstanding language use. The sentences are short and simple. There is a little bit use of subordinations. In terms of clauses are strung together in a non-hierarchical order using some kind of conjunctions like and, or, but. And there are also a lot of discourse marker like anyway, so, right, okay, well, now, and. I find a tag question, right? In addition, the customers use a vague language like things and stuff because he mentioned these words in his utterance. Last but not least, some backchannels are also found in the conversation like alright, cool, and mm-hmm. And how about the conversation at the market in Vietnam? As you can see in the video, both seller and the buyers use daily and casual vocabulary, and they use short sentences and simple structure to describe their needs. And these quote markers are also found in the conversation like ha, nha in their utterance. And that's all about the situation 1. Now we move to the situation 2, lectures at university. And we provide 2 examples of 2 lectures at Harvard University and Đông Đô University. And how about the content of 2 lectures? It is very different. Lecture at Harvard University is about the justice, while the lecture at Đông Đô University is about the political theory. And both examples are under the format of a lecture. Another pattern we need to consider is the structure of 2 lectures. About lecture at Harvard University, there are 5 stages. First of all, at the beginning of the lecturer introduced the topic, and then he lists in the topic with a story. After that, he explains and asks questions to his students. And then it's time to interact with his students. And finally, he introduced the next lesson. And the lecture at Đông Đô University has only 4 stages. In the very beginning of the lecturer sat down the class, which is very, very different from the lecturer at Harvard University. After settling down the class, he introduced the topic and then taught students the content of the lesson. And finally, he concluded the lesson, and that's all. Yeah, and one more important pattern is the language used in the lectures. The lecture at the Harvard University use both verbal and non-verbal language. In terms of verbal language, the lecturer used academic and professional language when giving explanation to his students, while he used informal and casual language when having conversations and interacting with his students. About nonverbal language, as you can see in the video, he walks around the platform a lot, and also he used hand gesture, facial expression, and diverse speaking tones when delivering the content of the lesson. About the lecture at Đông Đô University, there is a little bit different. Verbal and non-verbal language are used. However, in terms of verbal language, the lecturer used mostly academic language to teach the content, and there is little movement, little facial expression, and few hand gesture while talking and delivering the content of the lesson. Yeah, and it's all about the 4 patterns about the content, the format, the structure, and the language used in both situations.
Hello, my name is Nguyễn Hồng Diệp, and to continue the presentation, I would like to be in charge of step 4, analyze the meaning of the patterns. So, yeah, my group member has identified the patterns in the situation 1, and now I'm gonna analyze them to see what are the meaning of them in 2 contexts between Vietnam and America. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to analyze the conversation at the shop. So as you see in the video that the cashier and the customer, they greet each other by asking, how are you? Doing well, how are you? So it's very normal for Americans to greet each other by asking, how are you? But in Vietnam, Vietnamese don't greet stranger by asking, how are you? Or you will look so silly in front of them, because asking how are you just for the one they know each other already. Yeah. And the next thing I want to mention is the way people address people. So in America, they speak English and they just have I and you for all ages. So you don't need to pay attention about that. Yeah, but in Vietnam, depend on ages, you have to select the properly position for you to communicate. You have to focus on a vocative when you communicate with the seller or the cashier, like em, chị, cháu, cô, cháu, bác. Yeah, very complicated, right? Yeah. So yeah, the next one is Vietnamese have the habit of bargaining and negotiation. Well, bargaining and negotiation happens between the customer and the seller all the time in every market in Vietnam to get a good deal for both of them, right? But in the US grocery store, all the prices of all products are fixed. So there are no bargaining, no negotiation. Yeah. And yeah, move to the lecture at school. So in the video of the lecture of justice in Harvard University, you can see that student will be involved in the lesson by answering the question by the lecturer continuously, right? But in the Dongdo University, the lecturer don't give any questions, so students also will be stay quiet all the time, all the lessons, right? Yeah, and also you can see that in the lesson of Harvard University, the lecturer always give positive comments like, oh, that's a brave answer. Thank you, you did well. Oh, that's good to all students' answers, whether they are right or wrong. But yeah, in the lecture of Dongdo University, the lecturer just give information only, a little interaction. And you can see that in between the lecturer and the students, the learners in the Harvard University, they have very free and comfortable atmosphere. Yeah, the lecturer moves a lot on the stage, use hand gesture and facial expression. And yeah, as I said, that a free and comfortable atmosphere, so the lecturer encourages his students to express their idea freely, and they can come back to their answer as they want, if they want. And he wants just any answer. There's no right or wrong. And the students and the learners have opportunities to debate with their peers, even their lecturer. So the lecturer are trying to create interaction between the lecturer and the student, both of them, as much as possible to get an effective lesson. But in Vietnam, in Dongdo University video, the lecturers giving the political theory, he nearly just stays in one position and he just gives the information only, very, very little interaction. Right? Well, okay, so in conclusion, by analyzing the two genres about the differences between the two cultures, this the overseas student, Linh Chi, will understand and adapt better in the new living environment. So it's the end of the situation 1. I thank you for listening and watching.
Now let's move on to situation number 2, argumentative essay. And we will also go through 4 main steps: situational purpose, sample, analysis and explanation, and finally conclusion. And now let's take a look at the situational purpose. We are going to analyze the situational description as well as the situational purpose. So the situational description, the end of term assignment of the subjects English 4B requires students to write an argumentative essay on the topic School Event for Children. An argumentative essay is a genre of discourse, which, however, is rather new and unfamiliar to most students and can pose a challenge to them. Actually, we were these students when, last semester, and at first it was very, very difficult first. So as to assist us or assist these students in this assignment, teachers provide them with a sample of an argumentative essay and ask them to analyze it. So what's the purpose of this? Well, the students are asked to do the genre analysis so that they can understand the patterns of the specific genre of discourse. And after having understood the patterns of an argumentative essay, the student will be able to produce a successful one. Actually, we experienced this one. At first, we didn't know what this was, but then after analyze this, and we know the genre of this discourse. Actually, at that time, we didn't know what's the genre of discourse, but we know the structure of it, and thus we know how to produce an argumentative essay. And now we're going to take a look at the sample. Here's the sample. So I've just tagged a link here, and let's go to it. The sample here. Here's the topics: School Event for Children. This is the introduction. And you can see about the bodies, there's a few paragraphs, right? And then finally is the conclusion. And after the conclusion, we have a lot of references here. With the APA, the reference here to show that, there's a lot of materials that we read before we write this article. Okay, and now let's come back, and now let's move on to the third step, and also the most important one is the analysis and explanation. And the steps 1 is collect the sample. We have to show you the sample already. And now let's move to step number 2. It's about describing the rhetorical situation of the genre. So we're going to look at the setting. As you can see, that is because it's an academics article, so it can appear on a website about education, newspaper, or even forums for educational purpose, or reference book for students and teachers. And about the subjects, because the essay addresses the topic School Event for Children, which has been a controversial topic among educators for years. And how about the participants? Well, of course, we're going to have the writers and the readers, and they have one thing in common, is that they can be a student, a teacher, an educator, or even anyone who is really concerned about the topic School Event for Children. And the difference is that the writer is the one who wants to express their opinions of this topic, and the reader is the one who wants to read and know more about this topic. That's all about the participant. And finally, let's look at the purpose of it. Well, the writers produced this piece of writings as a way to express his thoughts of the topics that we have just mentioned before. So, in this essay, he's candidly articulates the disapproval of formal schooling and draws on lots of reliable resources as well as personal experience to support his views. So we can see a lot of reference, at the end of the essay, to prove for this one. So his main purpose of writing this essay is to convince people and direct their belief to the fact that school is actually very harmful to children. That is the purpose of this essay. And now we're going to move to the next steps.
I will be the next presenter. As you have studied the situational purpose as well as the rhetorical situation of this genre, we will now be looking at the features of this genre in step 3, identify the patterns of this genre. To understand the characteristic of this genre through our given example, we have first to know what the essay is about. It is in favor of the statement given in this topic, school is bad for children. And to prove that schooling is no longer the ideal environment for children, the writer holds 3 main arguments. The first one is schools kill children's creativity. The second one, school works lead to physical problems and mental breakdown. The third one, school bullying causes adverse physical and emotional struggles. About the format of this writing, it is an essay in around 700 words. About the structure, argumentative essay don't have the same structure as every other essay, which includes 3 parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So let's have a look again at our sample. So we have here the first paragraph is the introduction. With the first part is the background of the topic, and this yellow highlighted part is the thesis statement of the whole essay. From here, we have the body part. Our body part has 3 paragraphs representing 3 arguments, and this one is the conclusion. About the language used in an argumentative essay. Since this is still an academic writing, it is crucial to keep the formal styles in writing. To achieve that, writers should make good use of academic words as well as compounding complex sentences. Additionally, subjectivity is strictly avoided, which means writers should not use subjective language or first and second pronouns such as I, we, us, you. Another way to keep the objectiveness of writing is using more hedging language to reduce subjectivity. After knowing these features, we were eager to learn the meaning of this feature in step 4. Analyzing the meaning of the patterns. So as we have mentioned before, every essay is composed of 3 main parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. We also figured that most argumentative features lie in the body part. Let's see how. So here's an extract from the body part. Since this is an argumentative essay, the body part must follow a distinct structure. This is one example. We can see that every body paragraph starts with a counter-argument, which is the opposite idea with the writer, and followed by the writer's rebuttal. This rebuttal is then supported by one or more controlling ideas.
and a set of evidences. These evidences are taken from dependable sources such as researchers or academic articles so that they will increase the reliability of the essay. Furthermore, writer of this journal should also pay attention to the quoting method. Anything quoted from other author must be properly cited in the essay, and at the end of the essay there should be a list of references in APA style. And so that is the end of our analyzing process. To conclude, after analyzing the sample, the students in this situation should gain some insight about the argumentative essay and know more necessary components in an argumentative essay, as well as learn some required linguistic features. As a result, they should be able to create their own pieces of writing. To sum up our whole presentation, we would like to conclude after doing so many researches and case studies that there is indeed a great variety of genres in this course. By analyzing these genres, we could, first of all, understand the unique features of different types of discourse, and second of all, know the proper way to use those genres. So that marks the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for giving us such a great opportunity to showcase our knowledge about such interesting subject. And we'd like to thank you again for taking your valuable time to watch our presentation.